All I'm saying is this, okay? Sidehammer, amazing with all his strength. You're like, no limits, strongest character in the series, possibly one of the strongest characters ever in fiction. Garo, incredible. His growth rate is insane, he's ever impressive, and I'm amazed at the things he can do. Tario is like 9 and he outran a dragon class monster. Not even an executive. He outran an executive, okay? Listen. Tario wasn't exactly around when Elder Centipede was there. Is Tario Blast confirmed? Who knows? I know he is. He's Blast! One Punch Man, 110, Atomic Samurai. Good chapter. Liked it a lot. We're getting there. We're getting to the big chunk of the Monster Association now, and I'm very excited to see what's going on. Theme for this chapter was the theme of teamwork, which I think is good, because I think that's what they're going to need, and we've seen from previous encounters, we're going to need teamwork to beat the executives. So then, the chapter starts off with the finale of the Devil Longhair fight against the Three Swordsmen, and Devil Longhair has been beaten by these two, by these three even, and they've been cut down, basically by cutting him down to his roots. And there's two things to take from this, is obviously, you know, like, the first thing is Devil Longhair's done, and it shows, I guess, like, the effectiveness, like, I guess the top three A-class heroes can take on a demon level threat, and these guys have got a lot of teamwork experience, fighting with each other, they know their strengths, their weaknesses, they're good like this, and it took everything they had from what we can see to beat this monster, because as they're very exhausted, they've got a lot of wounds on them, this wasn't an easy fight for them, but they managed to beat this threat. So, I think, like I said, the first thing I should take from this is, the Three Swordsmen, I don't think they're going to do a lot more in this arc. Like, they might show up in another fight, but they can't really, as we've seen, it took everything they had between them to take down a demon level threat, let alone an executive. So if they do show up, maybe they'll act as a distraction, something to give a brief moment to the allies, to another hero, so they can get a good attack in. So that's the only kind of way I could see it. Second thing is, teamwork is super important. They show it right here. It's like, you know, on their own, they weren't a match for him. But yet together, they had to scrape through, but they still managed to beat this stronger opponent. And I think this is going to be very important for the other executive fights. As we've seen throughout this chapter, as we've seen throughout the series, you know, it takes a couple S-class heroes, like, at least, really, to go toe-to-toe with executive. Especially, the main example of that is obviously Elder Centipede was Bang, Bomb, and Genos. You know, they had to team up really just to even hold him off, let alone actually defeat him. So, I guess that's kind of like the main thing I take from this chapter, and there's other mentions of teamwork throughout this too, and they're obviously worried about their master, and then we finally get to see Atomic Samurai, because Atomic Samurai, man, we've been waiting ages to see him, and they just give us the double page straight away, just the boom, like slicing everything up in the area. It's great. It's like whenever we see Atomic Samurai, he's slicing and dicing, but we're just seeing him slice and dice, extra nicing. I get it. So, obviously, he beats all these monsters, and this was, this might be my favourite bit of the chapter. Obviously, there's interesting stuff, and I know the ending was like, okay, finally, here we go, but I think this probably was my favourite bit, was the monster who showed up. I can't remember his name, Yakshura, I think it was? That's probably not it at all, but like a swordsman monster showed up. He's like, another master swordsman here in my way, let's just clash. And then he's just like, bah, 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 and like, Atomic Samurai's not even giving him the time of day. Just, it was so good. Just him going, ha! I see we are equals! Instantly dead. Just, this chapter was basically the closest One Punch Man will get to Fist of the North Star, just like, you're already dead. And it was just really funny to watch. I did love just watching. It was great. And then obviously, Atomic Samurai goes on to talk about, like, he goes, is anyone else still alive? Raise your hand. A hand raises. It's G5. And this actually has brought to my attention something pretty interesting. So, Atomic Samurai is fighting G5. And maybe I should talk about this other stuff first, and then I'll talk about the fight, and I'll talk about my thoughts on G5 after the fight. So, he shows up, and they start having a clash. And it's really great to see, because obviously, you know, G5's like, I've analysed all your moves, now show me everything you can do, kind of thing. So obviously they start clashing, like, blah, 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 and then, like, you know, he's still not putting up a fight, and he's like, I guess I'll start increasing my speed. Atomic Samurai, not even bothered by this, he's like, I'm yawning, just go to your max speed already, don't slowly increase it, just do it. And, of course, one thing I actually really like about the design, which I imagine, maybe I'm looking too much into it, is when they first go to swing at each other, you've got G5 and Atomic Samurai, they each have the same similar panels and swing their sword initially. G5, you can see him fully, like, as in he's going to fully go all out, but Atomic Samurai, you see the top half of him, but the bottom half of him is still shaded. There's still something, I took that as there's still something there, there's still something he's hiding. He's not showing everything he's got in this fight, like, he's not struggling, and we saw this throughout the fight in any case, but maybe that's an indicator before the fight, like, you know, he's not having to go all out against this guy. And it was great to see this kind of stuff. Whereas And obviously as the fight goes on, you know, he goes, max speed, I'll beat you in 23 moves, and then 23 moves later, Atomic Samurai's like, you doing anything at all? Like, and then G5 starts rattling off like all his info. He's like, I got these double limits, like, you know, double joints, I've got extra arms, I can, you know, I don't have human limitations. And then Atomic Samurai has a moment where he's obviously like, he's not really been concerned throughout this whole fight, and he's like, oh man, I thought I found a good sparring partner for my students. I guess I could look at buying one online. And he's like, you see, and then he has that moment where he's like, you see, all those things are great, but you're missing something very crucial, and that's the fun factor. Those two panels are great. I love the top one especially, where you see the blades slowly move, his eyes are glowing, and then just easily dices up G5, no issue. The fun factor is, I guess, something Atomic Samurai holds personally, and that might be his way of fighting and his constant level of growth is to try things that are fun. So obviously he enjoys fighting, so that's part of the fun factor there, but like, you know, maybe like his limitations aren't there because he's constantly trying to, you know, better himself and try out new things that are fun, things that seem entertaining. Maybe that's what the fun factor is. Like, he keeps constantly improving because he's trying out new things and he's enjoying trying out new things. He gets creative with his fighting. And I'd like to see this implemented in the fight, which hopefully we'll see next time. So, as G5 is defeated, Atomic Samurai makes a note of not being able to notice he didn't cut through his core and something harbors there. We don't see what it was, but it launched a laser beam at him and obviously Atomic Samurai deflected. First thing I want to say is you got the air slash. Boom. Like, that was sick, so we get to see, like, okay, so in theory, like, Atomic Samurai can use the other techniques that the students can use as well, which makes sense, of course, being their master, but he sliced the dust cloud in half. When you slice air like that, like, if you go, like, if there's smoke and you just, like, go, dust doesn't split perfectly in half like that. That's incredible. Like, and, like, his feet have been alright throughout this chapter, but at the same time, I was like, it's not exactly cutting lightning in half or slicing up lightning. But this is pretty impressive. So what I wanted to talk about with G5 is, first of all, we don't see the core, which a lot of people would assume is Drive Knight, and I think there is something there to it, but I think there's probably, so the core is still around somewhere, hiding. But the reason I wanted to bring up the machines now is because it's kind of hit home to me about something which we haven't really thought about until, like, I didn't think about it until now. G4 was going after King, right? And G4's design was regal and royal. This robot was designed to fight King. G5, a very samurai-like robot, ends up fighting Atomic Samurai after saying, I've studied all your moves, I know everything you can do, hit me with everything. And of course, like, the mention of, like, you know, increasing speed slowly, he wants to see what Atomic Samurai can do, which I imagine, which is exactly what G4 wanted. He wanted to see exactly what King could do. So, the organisation is, I don't think these G-robots are out there to defeat the monster, like, to defeat the heroes yet. I think first of all they want to see what they can do, and maybe they'll take a step from there as a counterattack. And maybe it's like a Batman thing, like, because Batman has this thing in the Justice League where he's like, if any of you go rogue, I will stop you. Because he's got a set amount of plans. Maybe that's what the organisation is trying to do, or maybe it's even something as simple as, you know, like, trying to improve humanity, so, like, you know, just looking out at what the heroes can do, or maybe they want to take over, but they're being very observant about this kind of stuff. And I'm surprised I didn't pick that up before, but it was only like, once I saw Atomic Samurai fight G5, the Samurai Warrior, it picked up the same thing with King fighting against the King Warrior, and I wonder if there's other robots out there, so, like, we can kind of deduce who's supposed to fight who, so maybe there's, like, I don't know, maybe there's, like, a beast one that's meant to fight Watchdog Man, or maybe there's, like, you know, a tankish one that's supposed to fight Pig God or Darkshine, and maybe, like, that's how we'll get to see these from now on, and maybe that's what each of these upgrades will be, so G6, G7, G, and maybe there's, like, one G for each one, and the higher number it is, the more of a threat they seem to be. So, for example, King is a hero we haven't seen a lot of, right? So, like, especially the war, like, if the organisation is pretty observant, they'll be like, well, King gets the credit for all of this stuff, but we don't actually get to see him fight. But there's no one else who it could be, because as far as we know, they're not aware of Saitama. Maybe they might be aware of Saitama if they're being pretty observant about everything. What if this is, like, part of the thing is, like, so G4 was there to test out King, just like G5 was there to test out Atomic Samurai. So, if it goes up in ranks, they might consider Atomic Samurai more deadly than King, or the other way around, of course, because King's the strongest hero, so we'll get there. So maybe, like, G3, G2, and G1 are, like, you know, reserved for, like, maybe, like, Bang, Tatsumaki, and possibly Saitama, if they do know about Saitama. If not, it might be someone like Darkshine, and it's just to see what these heroes can do, so they can plan countermeasures, or help them grow, or try and... the organisation's very shady, but I think this is something there, definitely there with the robot designs. I think there's something there now, and I'm pretty excited that I noticed that, and I'm sure many of you noticed it too, but isn't it? Any kind of hint about the organisation is always super interesting to see. After it ends, of course. But like I said, the core is still okay, and I think it's going to be there to observe Atomic, because it made it clear, because it realised very quickly, I can't beat it, so maybe I should just observe it and see everything it can do, because I'm not going to be the one to push it to its limit. Meanwhile, we get to see Wagomba and Child Emperor, and they are like, they're nearly out of there. And Wagomba's such a good character, in the sense of, you hate him. I did not like him in this chapter. Like, he's so good at just making you not like this kid, because first of all, he's still whining, and then he's like, oh, well, you're going to take me to my dad, right? You're going to do this, yeah? And he goes on to say about, like, well, no, I've got to get back down here, which is interesting to see that Child Emperor's going to go down despite having to, like, use everything he's got, really, in the fight against Phoenix Man, because he's like, I'm needed down here because they need help. And, of course, he starts whining and moaning, and then, you know, I thought it was really good how Child Emperor is basically saying, you know, like, we need teamwork to beat these guys, because as Child Emperor's seen firsthand, you know, he had to use everything he could against a dragon level threat, and if there's more people like this, people are in trouble, and he can't guarantee that everyone's going to be okay, especially with the teamwork issues that there are amongst the Hero Association. Atomic Samurai also comments on it as well. He goes on to say about, you know, like, you know, at least I'll leave, what was it? He's like, I can leave protection of the above up to the heroes up there, because they have at least some form of teamwork, unlike us. So he's not against the idea of teamwork. There are people who are like, I could do this by myself, like Tatsumaki, for example. But Atomic Samurai is like, no, we should work together to defeat these guys. He's certainly not against the idea. He went on his own, but like, I think he's ready to team up with someone if it calls for it. He's not gonna be like, nah, I got this on my own, I can do it. Child Emperor, as he's leaving, you know, Gumba makes his comment, oh, so you're like the leader of these guys, and then he pauses for a moment, right? And then he goes like, no, like, someone else was supposed to take my place, but this isn't the time for these kind of discussions. And then he makes this comment of like, you know, I was once a class representative, although I hardly ever get to go to school. Which I think is probably where this is something that's going to be important for Child Emperor, is like where his character is and how he feels about this kind of stuff. Because Child Emperor is a child, and he hates being looked down on because he's a child, right? We saw that during his first introduction, but at the same time, and even like throughout this, I feel like people look down on him because he's a child, but he doesn't want people to look down on him because he's a child, yet he's having to deal with all these issues that the adults can't do. We see this when obviously Metal Knight decides, no, I can't, like, you know, he's like, I'm not going to fight these guys, and then, when the Hero Association's like, well, we need you to find out where everything's going, there's a lot of pressure on Child Emperor to do the right thing and be a hero, and there's nothing, like, I think he must obviously, to a certain degree, like being a hero, because otherwise he wouldn't do it otherwise, but at the same time, he's still a kid, you know, like, he shouldn't have to do this kind of stuff. He doesn't get a chance to enjoy his childhood because he's constantly having to clean up the messes that people are leaving behind. So whether it's the Hero Association or it's Metal Knight or like these irresponsible adults, he's having to deal with this kind of stuff and sacrifice his childhood, like the time he should be able to enjoy his life and do whatever he wants. And maybe this is how Saitama's interaction will come with him eventually, because when I was just thinking, like, how's this going to get resolved? And I feel like if there's any reason for Child Emperor and Saitama to interact, I feel like Child Emperor's going to be like, I've got this, I can do everything, and then Saitama's like, no mate, you're a kid, chill, I've got it, you know. I feel like Saitama would do that kind of thing, and maybe that's what they'll do when they finally interact, but that's like such an off thing, like that's so far away from when like they finally I suppose that's when Saitama's strength becomes more and more public kind of thing. But I think that's kind of where that could go, but I'm actually like, maybe at the very end of the series, Child Emperor isn't going to be a hero. He's going to be like, no, I've retired from that, or like, I'm not being a hero till I'm an adult. He's going to take a break, he's going to go enjoy school life, he's going to make friends, he's going to get hobbies, he's going to do all this kind of stuff, which he shouldn't have to do right now, be a hero. He should be just enjoying his life as a kid, and I think that was, I thought that was a little nice touch. So obviously you then get Wagomba, and you get the simple comparison between Wagomba and Tario. Wagomba is like, oh, I'm finally out of here, it's such an easy job, I can't believe this. And this is what I think is really good about Wagomba. They made him such a little asshole. They did so well with that, really, because I do not like this kid. You know, he's out there, like, you know, he's got, like, even, like, the villains of One Punch Man, they have some redeeming qualities. From the silly to the serious, they all have like, good designs, or cool powers, or interesting backstories. There's something to all the villains, except for this guy right here, Wagomba. The only other guy I can compare to him is the guy from the Deep Seeking arc at the very end, where he's like, well, we don't need all these other heroes, and then, like, obviously people start, like, doubting heroes because then Saitama has to sacrifice himself for that. Wagomba is like that. He doesn't have a redeeming design. He's purposely designed to be like not a good, like not a nice looking kid. No one goes like, oh, he's such a cute little kid, Wagomba. and everything like this, like his attitude, and I can't wait for him to get his comeuppance, whether it's an adult who does it. Like, I can't imagine like someone like Darkshine just like backhanding him, because let's face it, like that'd be a lot, but someone who just gives him a talking to really as an adult. So I guess if I had to imagine someone, pretty much I either got Saitama, King, Tatsumaki, maybe Atomic, and possibly who was the other person? Genos maybe even. I don't know why Genos popped into my head, but he's like, you know, I just feel like taking on like the role of Saitama. If Saitama's not around to do that, trying to learn from his master, maybe he gives a talking to Gumba. If not, Tario's just got to give him like a proper like bam and knock him out. You know, I would love that. Like, basically, I am looking forward to his comeuppance more than anything else. Like, as like a climax to a villain's arc, I want his comeuppance more than anything. Like, I'm excited to see all these fights, but that's one thing I'm actually really looking forward to. So Tario is getting chased. Who is Tario getting chased by? He's getting chased by Black Sperm, disaster level dragon. We finally get to meet the big boy himself. As a manga-only reader, I feel like there is no character to me who has been hyped up as much as Black Sperm. Now, I don't know anything about him, except for his design, and the people are, yo, Black Sperm though, and I'm very excited to see what he can do, because they've just been constantly being going like, you know, and I've been building up too. For example, the simplistic design. The fact is, when Orochi wanted challengers, Black Sperm was the only one who actually stood up. You know, he's been the one that, like, they've always kind of been building up very slightly. Like, even just in, like, design, he's got, like, this aura around him in previous chapters before, and we finally get it because Tario is running away from him, and he's just like, whoa, whoa, chill, mate, I'm just going to kill you, that's all I'm going to do, I'll be deaf in an instant, and that's what you got to do, so don't worry, just let me kill you. And obviously Tario's terrified. We get the slice, Black Sperm dodges it, and Atomic Samurai notices him, he's like, well, you're a nimble opponent, and that's where the chapter ends. So, in theory, we should be getting a fight between Atomic Samurai and Black Sperm next chapter. Now, unless they decide to cut away from it, which they might do, to be honest, because they've done this a couple times. I really hope they don't, and we finally get to see the first, like, real fight of an S-Class hero versus an executive, right? Especially this one Black Sperm. And the only reason I'd be okay with it not showing that is if they decide in the next chapter to set up more fights, to set up all these different opponents, so we can think about Atomic Samurai versus Black Sperm, where next time we might see, I don't know, like, Pig God versus Gums, or, I don't know, Darkshine versus Homeless Emperor, something along those lines. When we get this, if the next chapter's like more build-ups, I'll be okay with it, but I'd still much rather prefer to see Atomic Samurai versus Black Sperm. As for how I think the fight's going to go, Atomic, as great as he is, like, from what we've seen of previous fights and the abilities of executives, like defeating other dragon level opponents like Garo, having multiple S-classes take them on at the same time, they are top tier dragons, you know, not Dragon Plus, but about as high, I think, as a dragon can get before bridging that gap between Dragon Plus, above Dragon. So, Atomic Samurai, unless he gets back up, is going to lose. And we should see Atomic Samurai go all out, right? And I'd love to see that, but we need to see what Black Sperm can do as well. Like, that's the idea I want. And also there's this idea of teamwork, and we don't know who he'd team up with. I don't know who he'd team up with out of the S-Class heroes. However, I did have an idea, which is the Swordmasters haven't been seen in the series for a while, and they were going to help him fight Garo. And it would be super cool if the Swordmasters ended up showing up and giving Atomic Samurai a hand, because they have good teamwork. And then one of two things would happen from that. I imagine to keep to get an ending from that. I think the unlikely one is that the four of them team up and then they beat Black Sperm and they live. Or, as I think would be more likely, they might, like, Black Sperm is going to be such a monster to them, like, such as just a mountain of an opponent, right, that the other swordsmen, I think, will probably die. And the Council of Swordsmen will kind of end there and then. Because I think they'll end up dying, protecting Atomic Samurai Kamikaze, so he can live and get away. Because they might be like, listen, you're the best one out of us, you need to live so our sword skills can carry on. Or, like, you know, the way the sword can live, and you're the best one for the job, kind of thing. Because they got built up pretty big, because they're like, you know, these warriors that Atomic Samurai respects, and this has all been like big build-ups, right? Because we've got Atomic Samurai, who's been kind of in the background slicing up everything, and we see from this like he hasn't had a struggle. The swordsman who Atomic Samurai respects in a similar way to Bang, so they should be at a kind of similar level. I imagine a bit lower, but still pretty up there. And then of course we got Black Sperm, probably the most hyped up monster apart from Orochi up until this point, right? So I think it could go that way. That's the way I think it's going to go. I don't know what else would happen. Like, maybe another... I'd be interested if another S-Class hero shows up. The only other person who would show up, I guess, would be Child Emperor, because he's looking for allies. But, of course, it's a massive maze down there. We don't know what's going to go on. And we don't know who Child Emperor could run into. And he's not really in a... He can take down lower-level monsters, but if he comes solo against an executive, he's not going to stand a chance at this point, because he's basically, he used up all his abilities against Phoenix Man. But, yeah. And that's my opinion of Chapter 110. I really liked it. I thought it was super good, and I loved Atomic. I love Black Sperm. With Gumba's a little so-and-so. And yeah, I think there's something there with the organisation robots too. What did you think of this chapter though? Let me know in the comments down below. Did you love it? Did you hate it? Everything like that. Maybe this will be out at a decent time. Who knows? Thank you for watching though, and I guess I'll see you around. If you want to like and subscribe, that's appreciated. But no need to, because I'm trash. Goodbye!